Hello, and welcome to the SharePoint Framework and JavaScript Special Interest Group Bi-Weekly Sync. It is August 26th. I'm your host, Patrick Rodgers, for this call. And we've got a great call for you today, as always, with our agenda. So latest updates on SharePoint Framework, patterns and practices, updates across the program, new community samples, picture time, and then demos by me. So if you don't enjoy listening to me, you've got a lot of me to listen to today. And we'll also probably have maybe a surprise demo at the end there if you stick around for the end. Of course, we always like to talk about opportunities to participate in PnP and these calls and the program all up. So first off, always encourage everybody out there to demo. I know you're all working on great stuff for your companies and for your customers, and we'd love to have you demo that on the call. SharePoint Framework web parts, application customizers. I know folks are starting to get into some of the ACE card development, which is what I'll actually be talking about in the demo later. Would love to start seeing folks doing more demos around that. Really exciting new things you can do there. As well, you can always contribute on GitHub by reporting issues, submitting pull requests, and helping with issues and questions other folks might have. And as well, we always appreciate your feedback. How are these calls going? How is our documentation? Where else can we help? And positive feedback is, of course, okay too. It helps us do a little bit more of the things you like. Next up is our Page-O links. So the first up is the developer videos. These are going to be topic-focused videos on how to achieve certain things, such as authentication, how to build certain kinds of web parts, very specific kind of tasks. There's series there on PowerShell, all kinds of great content there for learning. Certainly check that out. As well, then the community videos. Those are going to be the recordings of all of our community calls, such as this one, the other special interest group call, our monthly community calls, as well as other calls throughout the month. You can always catch up on missed episodes there. As well, bunches of open source organizations all open to your participation. So SharePoint, PnP, Office Dev, and Microsoft Graph. All four of those really welcome and encourage you to jump in, participate, report issues, submit pull requests, help out if you're interested in any of the projects across those organizations. They're all pretty open to having you help out and join in. As well, sample galleries. We've got team samples, SPFx web parts, Power Platform samples, SPFx extensions, and list formatting samples, all available for you. A great resource if you're looking to get started or you got a new project. You want to see how others maybe have solved a similar problem. Go check those out. And then finally, that's a lot of links to remember, but ak.ms/m365pnp will get you all the links and all the content you might need about the program and about all of the resources I mentioned previously. So you can find those very easily, aka.ms/m365pnp. This is our super confusing chart about our community calls, but the idea here is as we close out the summer, so starting August 31st, we're going to have an updated schedule for all the calls that we do. So not just our PnP calls, but a lot of the other community calls. We're going to try and rationalize this a little bit, make it easier for folks to attend different calls and attend more of the calls, so try and avoid some of the overlap that has happened in the past. So we'll have updates as we get closer to the 31st, which is just so far away still because there's no way summer can be almost over.
Next Tuesday.
No, it's not. And we'll have updates coming soon, but definitely excited for the new schedule. I think it's going to be a lot easier for folks to manage their time there. Next up is Sharing is Caring with David.
No, it's not.
No, it's not. It is the Microsoft 365 Platform Community Call, 31st of August at 8 a.m. Pacific time. So that's a new weekly call with Microsoft presenters and the latest around the Microsoft 365 platform. So that's going to be Waldeck and Misa Risi and Andrew introducing the Microsoft Graph.net SDK v4. Excited to hear about more about that. And then Will Show getting started with Microsoft Teams UI Library. That is the most awesome name for a presenter ever. And so excited to see that's going to be 31st of August at 8 a.m. Pacific time. And basically, am I correct to say this is the first of our new series of calls?
Correct. So basically what we're doing is that we're combining SharePoint, Microsoft Teams, and the Microsoft Graph calls to this single weekly recurrent meeting. Most likely Office admin call is going to be merged on that as well. And that is the first one next Tuesday. And we'll start doing that on a weekly basis with Microsoft BG, so product group, presenters, cloud advocates, and all of that on every single Tuesday, 8 a.m. Pacific time. See you there.
Awesome. And is this now Sharing is Caring with David? I think it is.
We're seeing the same slides.
All right, it looks like it. And everybody, make sure you attend that Tuesday call because you can tell your grandkids you were there, the inaugural event. Sharing is Caring, though, is about including you in the community, giving you an opportunity to contribute back, to use the resources that are available to you. We understand that there are hurdles that might be preventing you from not only using, but contributing back, such as how do you navigate GitHub? What about those terms like forking and raw and pull request? What do they mean? How do you navigate them? We are here to help you. These sessions are live, hands-on, inclusive, safe space opportunities. We do not record them. You're going to collaborate with members of the PnP team to see how you can contribute back to the community. So a number of sessions are available. We also have a whole collection of AMAs coming up in September. As you can see, recognition programs, script samples, Power Platform. Those have been a great opportunity to interact with those in the community and the PnP initiatives. So take advantage of those. And we have lots coming up for the fall for new sessions. Now, once you have contributed, we love to celebrate and recognize you. So don't forget, there is the recognition program now that is available. This is powered by Credly, the same Credly that handles the badges for your Microsoft certification. So we're going to continue to come out with new badges. We were just working on some yesterday, things for samples, blog writing at Tech Community with Louisa, who will love to help you do that. We're going to recognize all the amazing contributions that you're making and the hard work that you're putting in and provide you this formal, fun way to recognize the work you're doing. And we're also going to have some fun campaigns coming up. Hacktoberfest is coming up. There's going to be some fun Parker-related limited edition badges. And of course, we're going to continue to do this to keep you involved and celebrate your work. So AKA at M365 PnP-recognition, we need you to opt in so we can connect your profile to your Credly account. And we ask you to please register. Thank you very much. Patrick, back to you.
Thank you, David. And now we're going to go to SharePoint Framework updates with Vesa.
Thank you, Patrick, on that one. So just a reminder for everybody, we're pushing out the new SharePoint Store experience, and this is for celebrating and promoting our partner offerings in the SharePoint Store or in the App Source. And we're going to do a lot of investments in here and also in the App Source. So you can already today in the SharePoint Online, it's 100% rolled out. If you go and add an app experience, the experience is completely modernized, and you will see further investments in this area in the future. And there is a nice blog post in AKMS SP blog from last week or week before that. On the movement of SharePoint Framework, so 1.13 is in the beta status. There is a new version of 1.13 out. We pushed out the version last Friday. I'm going to do a blog post later today on that one. It's a bit of delayed because all of the things in the to-do list, but there's a new version towards 1.13. So if you have time, please help us to verify 1.13 that there's no surprises and functionalities there. Of course, we have a significant testing on our side as well. But as we saw with the 1.12, we moved into this public preview model with SharePoint Framework releases. While looking into releasing 1.13, I would say within weeks rather than months or within days, but I can't give you an exact date if we move that. As you know, and as you've seen, Viva is really the big focus area for us for SharePoint Framework, and that's going to be part of 1.13. 1.14 most likely is going to happen within this half and in autumn timeframe as well. And we're going to keep on pushing in here. And we're also really focusing on the Teams improvements, so making that better. And a lot of tooling updates and improvements on the framework as well. So basically what we want to do is to make sure that even though you wouldn't be implementing for Viva or in the Teams, you will get improvements on the experience. So a lot of version updates, all of that's coming, and store modernization is progressing as well. And that's it from my side. Let's jump into PnPjs and Julie.
Cool. Thanks. So version 2.8 released just a little over a week ago. We got a lot of new graph features, and we got some SharePoint features for adding image field. We also got a lot of documentation updates, so definitely check out the release notes on 2.8.0. Also, just wanted to quick update, V3 development is well underway. We're making some huge progress. Anybody who watches the library can see Patrick and I furiously issuing pull requests for V3, so definitely check out that branch, see what we're doing, and hopefully we'll have something for you all to check out soon. As usual, follow us on Twitter, M365PnPjs, and be sure to put all your feedback in the issues list if you have any questions, problems, need help, need assistance. put those in that issue list, and we will be happy to try to help you. And that's all we have for today. Patrick?
Thank you. There's an airplane dropping a bomb on but it is escalated. It is on. All right, so CLI for Microsoft 365, new preview v3.13 with retrieving apps installed in a site, removing application permissions from a site, adding users to SharePoint groups, and retrieving Microsoft Planner plans. You can always try the latest beta, npm install-g at PnP/CLI Microsoft 365 at next, and then you can always run it in Docker. They've packaged this up very nicely, so you can run the Docker package very easily with all the dependencies and everything ready to go. You can also try out the preview of v4, which is coming up for later this year. npm install -g, all those same things at 4 will get you the latest v4 preview. Same for the Docker there. And all the information, ak.ms/CLI-M365 will get you all the documentation, links, and understanding there for the CLI. Really an awesome tool to use in your development. I use it pretty frequently when I'm trying to figure stuff out. So check that out. It's a great resource to have in your tool belt, and encourage everybody to use it. SPFx reusable components. So React controls 290.
I can go.
Oh, great.
Yeah,
great.
Thank you. Yep.
Do it.
So yeah, yesterday we released new React controls version 2, 2.9.0, and versions 3.3.0. There are 2 new controls, live persona and list item comments. For the live persona, please read the disclaimer in the documentation, because we're using kind of not official APIs and possibilities from SharePoint, so at some point it might break, so be aware of that. And note here that we will not release major versions for v2 anymore. It's time to upgrade your solutions from SPFx 1.11 to 1.12. And of course, special thanks to all the contributors, and more information on the links below, and follow us on Twitter at M365 PnP Controls. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Alex, for those updates. And sorry about that. I missed that you had joined the call, so appreciate that. And then modern search updates. I'll pause for a second in case anybody's here to speak to that, and then I'll start talking about it. So building modern search experiences, it's a great way to take this set of web parts and build out search portals for your users. It uses based on SPFx and a lot of out-of-the-box styling, so it looks very built-in, and it's got a lot of flexibility and a lot of power built into it. August release delayed due to a lack of resources and time, but the v4.3.0 July release was out and had a proper fix for custom helpers and web components across web parts, persona card fix, as well as Dutch translation, and then the 3.21.0 July release. And just a reminder, the v3 branch is really in maintenance mode at this point, so as possible, please do migrate to the v4 branch, as you can and as is possible. So, definitely check out the modern search experience, ak.ms/PnP-search. And now the SPFx samples with Hugo.
Awesome. Thank you, Patrick. So we have some sample repositories for you. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to SharePoint Framework or you have been using SharePoint Framework for a while and you're just looking for inspiration. There's samples for web parts and extensions, and you can leverage any of those samples. You can actually use them for patterns, or you can use them for a full-on solution. This is the updates for the last 2 weeks. There is no new updates on the extension side. However, there is a pull request from Kunj Sangani that I didn't get to process yet, so I apologize for that. But on the web part side, we have a new web part called My OneDrive. It's a SPFx 1.12.1 by Siddharth Vageja. I'm sure I'm mispronouncing that. It's a simple web part that displays the current user's OneDrive, and you would actually use this web part, let's say, on an intranet homepage, and then you can show a quick reference to the person's OneDrive. The Teams membership updater, which is something we've demoed a while ago by Nick Brown. Nick has added support for populating private channels inside of a Teams, support for page list of Teams from Graph, and sorting as well. And finally, we have a new My Events web part by Chandani Prajapati. This new web part will actually provide the user's Outlook events with some advanced features. It's very cool. And by the way, we have reached a new milestone. We have now passed over 2,000 pull requests, which is amazing, right? If you think about it. So thank you everyone for being so awesome. Thank you for sharing your wisdom. And I'm looking forward for the day where I have to quit my regular job so I can just process pull requests. That's how awesome this is. Thank you. Back to you, Patrick.
I'll just second that from Hugo. Really amazing. This started, I think, a year ago or around that, and it's just grown so quick, or maybe a little longer than that, but so quickly. And it's amazing to see everybody in the community helping out here and participating and contributing to the samples. It's such a valuable community resource. So thank you to everybody. Great work, Hugo. Great work, everybody involved in this, and keep it up. Optional picture time. So if you're interested, go ahead and turn your cameras on, and we're going to do our together mode
Group
picture.
photo.
It's right there on
Group
the slide.
Photo. Group photo.
Group photo.
Yes.
English is such a hard language, especially since it's my
It
first.
is. Yeah. Let's see how many people we're getting. I think we'll max out to 50 pretty soon. Let's wait for a while. Let me put myself there as well. David. Oh, Simon, don't do that. Not on the back row. Behave. People in the back, behave. Okay, I think we're maxed out. So everybody, let's do some hand waving. We're going to do a GIF animation out of this as well. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for being here. Hopefully by end of this year, we'll actually meet physically in some of the conferences, and seems pretty positive in some areas. We'll see. But thank you, everybody. Thank you for being part of this. We'll post out a GIF animation later today, and then it's going to be part of the blog post as well when we publish the summary of the call. So thank you for this one. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Okie dokie. So that is always a lot of fun. But now on to demos, which today is me, followed by a mystery demo. So there is some drama to keep you sticking around. So first, a marketing slide. So what we're going to talk about today is some Viva Connections dev. You saw, I believe it was last time, Julie Turner demoed some great samples she built, she and Derek, I believe. And so that was very cool. But we want to talk about that a little bit more, because Viva Connections ACE development is really kind of the next step or next piece of the evolution for SharePoint Framework. It's not a replacement for, it's rather an extension of SharePoint Framework, another part of SharePoint Framework you could take advantage of to get some customization into the Viva Connections dashboard that's coming up. So this is a marketing slide. It's got lots of stuff on it. So these card views, so you've got kind of the card view, which are these little tiles on the screen here. So imagine this is on a mobile device. This would also show up in Teams. It also shows up in SharePoint eventually. You can have a dynamic title and icon. You can kind of change these things around. You can change the text. You can have buttons on these cards. The buttons can change based on what's going on. You have complete control over that sort of thing. We'll talk about a lot more of this in detail. The next step here is this adaptive card. You can have multiple different kinds of views here. So whereas the card view, that first piece, is very fixed. There's three right now. There's three fixed layouts you can use in those cards. And for the quick views, which is that center thing, those are completely sculpted by adaptive cards. So you have complete control over what goes on there. So you can have simple text display, you can have images, all sorts of other stuff. And then finally, the sort of third part of this is then linking out to another app. Could be a Teams app, could be a SaaS app, lots of options there, link right to a Teams channel, things like that. So lots of different capabilities there. But let's talk about, how should I, the developer, think about ACEs? So ACEs are really the container control. So an ACE has a single immutable state. It's very like React. So you can think about it like React, but it's not React. It's not actually React under the hood, but it uses set state. So it's a very familiar approach to setting state and state management. It provides a context, so very much like SPFx, you have a this.context, which tells you where you are in the world. And then it's got all the lifecycle events you're familiar with. And then a few differences from SPFx, but generally speaking, it contains the lifecycle events for you. And then it hosts, manages, controls the various views. So pick how you like to describe that, but it is the host of the views or the view controller. Lots of obviously different view models out there in the world, but it hosts the views. The views live inside the ACE. And then about those views, you can have pretty much, I think, as many views as you want, but there's two types. The first is card view, and those are those little tiles. There's 3 fixed layouts and 2 sizes. The sizes are medium and large. So if we hop back real quick, a medium card is the single box here, and a large card is this larger of the boxes. So you can sort of have half of a mobile screen or stretch across the full mobile screen. 1 card view is required per ACE, but you can have multiple. You can have any number of those things. So, but 1 is required. And then those card views can act as a link. They can have 1 or 2 buttons. You need to have a large card size for the 2 buttons. And we'll talk about that all a little bit more when we get into the code. And then finally, the quick view cards have no defined layout. So you completely control and define those layouts using the adaptive card schema or syntax, however you want to describe that. Those can have images, form elements, text, buttons, and more. Pretty much in my testing, everything seemed to mostly work from adaptivecards.io that I tried in there. So really neat, really flexible, very easy to build stuff out. And you'll see I was able to build out some fairly ugly, because I built them, but complicated interfaces pretty easily. And then you're not required to have a quick view card. So you can have just a card view that maybe links out to your Teams app or something like that. Or you can have multiple quick views to really, provide a little bit more interactivity in your ACE solution. So that's enough talking. Let's get to some code. The first thing I want to show you, I've got 3 samples here, and these are all now publicly available. But the first one is this basic card deep link here. And this is really the 3 samples I want to show today kind of start very basic and then work up to more complex. And the hope is, and I'm of course interested in the community's feedback on this, but the hope is that with these 3 samples, we've covered not exactly the specific task you're going to do, but the methods you might do generally to solve these tasks. So the first kind of card is a basic deep link card. We've given it a couple of properties here with a URL. That's a Teams deep link, it turns out, because it goes to a channel. And we'll hit preview there. And if we click on that, we're going to open up our Teams link. This would actually open up our Teams channel. And we're going to use the web app instead because I'm on my testing tenant. And we all know how fun it is to try and switch tenants mid-demo. So, but this is a test channel with some great conversations I've had here with myself over time. But that's it. That's a basic deep link card. That's what it does. I've got a card on the screen. I can click it and it links somewhere. So how did we build that? And that's this code here. So what we did is we've got our adaptive card extension, and these are scaffolded exactly like SharePoint Framework. You start with the Yeoman generator, you pick adaptive card extension. So where you have like web part application customizer, one of the new choices is adaptive card extension, and you get this all scaffolded out. Your main class is this ACE class, and that inherits here from the base adaptive card extension class, and it takes some props and state things. So that's very React-like. But again, this is not backed by React in any way that you will ever address or deal with directly, but it's very React-like. So it feels very familiar. It's very easy to build in this. And it's also very, very much like SharePoint Framework. So it's going to feel very familiar. If you've worked in SharePoint Framework and you start to pick up ACEs, I think you're going to get started very quickly. But there's some interesting differences. First off, you'll see we've got an on init. That should be familiar to everybody. We've got to set our initial state here. That's very React-like, very common thing to do there. But there's this new thing, Card Navigator. And so Card Navigator is sort of your index of all the views that can exist inside your ACE. And you have to set these things up kind of at the beginning here. And they have a string ID and this sort of factory function here. And one important thing to note is when I register this card, it's going to invoke my factory function, which can have other logic in it, right? I could do more than just say new, but once that's invoked, it's going to hold on to that card object that got created. It's not going to re-invoke this every time the card is shown. So something to keep in mind there for how maybe you structure your solutions and perhaps how you might build some things. There's a property down here, render card. This tells it what card to render. We've just, this is our very simple example. So we're just returning the card view ID, which is just the same ID you can see we use to register the card. So we're saying, hey, render my card there. And then the other thing I'd like to show in this that I think is interesting, if we look at the property pane, this is where we've gone in and added our properties for link URL and Teams link. Again, very SharePoint framework-like, but you know, just want to show, kind of do the same things here, set our settings up. And then in our actual card view, card views, as well as quick views, but this solution has no quick views. It just has the single card view. So we've got 3 different base classes you can inherit from. Those are the 3 fixed layouts for card views. There might be more, but currently there's 3. And that has to do with us trying to keep the dashboard clean and sort of consistent. But the data here is defined. And so I'll kind of dwell on this here and not in the next 3 demos. But the way to think about these views and this data property is you have an adaptive card sort of syntax or schema, and then you have this data. And so you've got your model, which is this data, and the view, which is the adaptive card, and those get mashed together to create what's on the screen. So this data, really think of this as producing the model for this view, right? And so this is very simple. We're just taking some stuff from our properties, we're just returning it. You'll see later we can do very much more complex things here, but right now we're just saying we've got our properties. That's the description and title. And then here is on our card selection. So this is when I actually click that card. You can do a couple different things here. In this case, very simple example, I've just showed you can have some super simple defaults. Like if we don't have a link defined, we're just going to send them to the best search engine on earth, Bing. And otherwise, we're just going to return our properties, the Teams link, and the target URL, because we've got our URL up there from the properties. And that's it. We've built a card view that we can set the link for, and that will link us out to other stuff. So if I click on that, again, that's what we just saw. So we'll use our web app, and again, my great channel of me talking to myself, which we'll leave open for future demos. So give me 1 second. I'm going to Control C out of this. And I'm going to get the server started for my next one. And so we'll go back into edit mode here, and we'll take this guy off the screen. And we will wait a second for our server to get going for our second example. And our second example is looking to cover this idea of I need to get some information and show it to the user in a carousel pattern, right? We've all written carousels probably 1,000 times in our career. So I've written another one here and just want to kind of show that off because I think it's another very common scenario. I've called this one company news, but you can think about this being images or articles or you know, emergency updates or company updates or any kind of pattern where you want to page through this stuff. And while we're waiting for the server to spin up, let me see if there's any questions here. If it's not React, what is it? So the ACEs are not React. They are based on adaptive cards. So the adaptive cards in the background could be rendered with React. They could be rendered with React Native. They could be rendered with something else. That's the point of the adaptive cards, is they're going to give you that flexibility, or rather us that flexibility to take your work and render it across many different devices as natively as we possibly can. Somebody want to learn about technical underpinnings? We could do a session on that for sure. Can we have more than 3 card templates for Viva Card? So right now, the card views, those tile views, are restricted to 3 layouts right now. Post GA, that may change, but currently that's what is available. But again, for the quick views, you can do pretty much anything you want. So we'll go ahead and refresh this. I think we should be good to go here with our company news. And there's our company news. And so this loads on up. And I've already, one thing I've got to do here is, again, you need to set the card size to large to get the buttons down there correctly. We'll go into preview. And so this is my article title. I can click on this. I get my image. I get my article text, which you can see here. I did learn right now in adaptive cards, you can't parse HTML. So this is just the raw HTML from my input there. And I'm showing you can show the rest of this stuff in this view. But you can see, like, here's my image, here's my image, here's my title, here's my title, here's my little SVG icon. Here's my little SVG icon. Those are all being pulled from the same state. So you're just presenting the information from the ACES state in these different views. And I added some functionality here. You can actually like this article. It's going to go back and actually like it in SharePoint. We'll look at that here in a second. And I can click next, and I can click next. I think we're all familiar with this kind of thing. But this example, hopefully, is a very general example of I need to pull some content and I need to display that to folks in kind of this carousel scrolling manner. So I think that will cover a lot of that. But how did we write that? So let me find the right company news code. And so same thing we've got in here. We scaffold our adaptive card. And so we've got our extension. And sorry, I was looking at the chat for a second. We've got our extension here. Again, we inherit from the base card extension, but we've got a lot more going on in this example. We've got a card view and we've got our quick view. So this has the card view and then it has that quick view. So the card view is the part that had the previous and next buttons. The quick view is the part that popped up and showed us the full article. So in our on init, same sort of pattern here. We set our state. We register our views. So note there's a card navigator and a quick view navigator. Those are separate things. And you register your card views in one and your quick views in the other, but they work the same. So just note there are two different places to register those things. And then there's lots of different techniques to do this. This is something I like to do because we keep our contextual this and all our variables available. But I set a timeout. So this allows us to tell the JavaScript runtime engine, hey, next event loop, when you get around to it, do this stuff for me. And so what we're doing is we're getting an SP instance. This is actually using PnPjs, but the point isn't using PnPjs. The point is you can use any third-party library in here to do data fetching or any other operation you want to do. And all the bundling works the way you expect. All of the inheritance works the way you expect. Everything works exactly the way you're going to expect it to do. I just happen to have used PnPjs here, mostly because I wanted to test PnPjs that it worked in ACES. So set state, again, we're setting the state, calling set state with our updated articles. So we've gotten our articles and we're going to set our state there and we're going to say our current index is 0. Up here, our index was -1. Now our index is 0, the first one in the group there. And the rest of this is pretty similar to what we saw before. We're rendering our card view ID and so forth. So let's look at our card view real quick. So our card view has a little bit more going on in the data here. So we've got, if we have less than 0, right? So if our article index is at -1, we're going to return this kind of loading view. So this is just returning some hard-coded data that says loading, and it's got an SVG icon just as a string in here and so forth. And then we do return the selected article if one of the articles is selected in the carousel, right? So this is the current one that I've selected. And then we've got a property here we didn't see before, but this is card buttons. So card buttons, you can return 1 or 2 buttons or undefined. So there's no other choice, right? You can return 1 button or 2 buttons. And so what we do here is we kind of build up, this is our logic here to say, hey, do we need previous? Do we need our next button? And we just, put those buttons into this array and return them. So we're returning either 1 or 2 buttons, depending on how we are in the scrolling through our articles. And then on action, so on action is our event handler. So event handlers are sort of auto-subscribed to this on action event, or on action method rather. So you don't have to go for each button, add and on click and so forth. Every button is going to track through into this on action method. And you can kind of differentiate what happened by giving your buttons IDs. So you can see up here, I've got an ID of previous and next, which correspond to previous and next. And all we do is set the state in here. So we're going next, we're just adding 1 to our index, previous, subtracting 1, and setting state, very much like React, is going to reflow your rendering, and you're going to get your updated view. So this is showing us the clicking through, and that's the actual next and previous happening, right? So I click previous, we decrement our active index, and this reflows, and we see article 3, article 2, article 1, so forth. I think we're all familiar with how to go through arrays. But the next part of this is the quick views. So this is the first quick view we've looked at today, and quick views are another class that inherits from a different base class, or the same base class, maybe the same, different base class, sorry. And so in here, we again have our data property, and this data property represents the model that we're going to bind to our adaptive card view. So trying to keep that in mind, sort of that mental model. And here we're doing another check if we don't have a selected article, but I've clicked on the thing. So imagine if somebody's just like very, very fast and they click it before you've had a chance to load the articles. We want to handle that, but we handle it pretty cheaply here and just put up a thing that says loading. Now here we're going to do a little bit more logic. So we've got a little bit more going on than we've seen so far today. So we're going to grab our articles out of the state. We're going to get the current item out of those articles based on the article index. We're going to grab the content from that item. Now, to save bandwidth, we're lazy loading the content. So we're lazy loading that big hunk of content, that big HTML block you saw, only when we actually click on and select those things. And so we come in here and we're going to set another timeout. This is a technique I really like, to set timeout to get an async into the next event loop. You could also just have an async method you call, but there's some things here I like. I think this makes this a little cleaner, especially in situations like this where you kind of want to have these variables fall through and things. But so we're going to get an SP. We'll look at that SP code very briefly because that's not the point of the demo. But so we're getting our article contents, setting that item content, and then we're resetting our state here. So a couple of subtle things are happening here. So JavaScript arrays are by reference. So the fact I've gotten I've gotten the item up here out of this array, I've changed that item, and I reset the state with that same array, that's actually going to reset everything. That item in that array is updated, and we've reflowed our state with the new articles there. So, and then if we don't have any content, so this is kind of another sort of subtle thing here. So if we get the content up there and we don't have it, we're going to do this business with the set array. But while we're waiting, we're going to set that content to fetching. And then we're just going to drop through and return our model, which has the stuff. Because remember, we've loaded everything but the content at this point. So we can show people the title, primary text, and so forth. And then once the content's loaded, this set state will be called, and we'll reflow, and it'll show the content then as part of our model. So that's a way to do that there. And then we've got an on action here again. So I'm trying to look back up here at some of the questions. So Mark's question is, so let content equal item. That's actually, those are two very different statements. So the let content equal item is actually destructuring item into content. So you would, your second statement to be equivalent would be let content equal item dot content would be the same equivalent statement there. Well, I don't know. We'll see about writing code at scale, I guess. So setting timeout here, we've got, this is our action to like the articles. And we're going to set the timeout, again, using that technique, and then doing similar operation here. We're going to get our articles, get that item that's selected currently, and then we're going to, if it's liked, we're going to unlike it. And if it is not liked, we're going to like it. And then we reset our item, and then we do the exact same operation to set state, reflow the rendering, and get our updated views. JavaScript shortcut, Mark, not TypeScript exclusive. So that's a JavaScript thing now. And so the other piece here I want to show you is our template. bounce over here to our template. So adaptive card templates are created via JSON. Adaptivecards.io is a fantastic website. They have tons of samples. They've got the full schema defined. That's how I learned all this. So I encourage you to check adaptivecards.io out. But these adaptive cards are just defined with JSON. And I'm not going to go through every little part of this, but you can have text blocks, images, action sets. So this is where we're actually putting our button in here to do the liking. Text block content. You have things like column sets. So this is, you can set up tables, things like that. And then you can have a set of actions that also appear at the bottom of the screen. So this is, a fairly, in my view, simple adaptive card, but gives us that nice view again of, a click on here and we see our full article there. So great. So that is our company news rotate. Oh, shoot. I didn't, sorry. Let me look real quick. I wanted to show you as well the, not that one. I wanted to show you as well this one. Real quick, the PnPjs part, you can see this in the sample. I'm not going to dwell on this because that's not the point of this demo. But what I've done here is create my project preset. This is one of our samples, this is part of our guidance. But I've also extended web to using the extend factory functionality to have exactly the methods I need. So they're very easy and clean back in our other code. And the other piece of the pattern here is this get SP. So in our ACE, we have access to the context. This is just like SharePoint Framework. It's got a this.context. So we call the get SP in the ACE body, store that context, build up an SP, and then we actually will just keep using that same SP. And we can call this get SP then in our views where we do not have access to the context. So this is a little shortcut for the PnPjs stuff. You can check that out in the repository. Again, don't want to dwell on that. And so for our last one, which I think is the cooler of the samples here. So let me just get that going. And while that's running up, I will glance up at the questions here. I ignore something stupid. A reminder, we get spoiled by Accelerate. Which version of adaptive cards is supported is a great question. I believe it's 1.2. It might be more. And there's a couple small caveats of things at this point that don't work exactly right yet in ACEs. So how is ACE related to Viva Connections? So ACEs are going to appear on the Viva Connections dashboard. So this is the way you can add, V1.3 is supported currently. So that question was answered up above. Thank you for that. So these are the way you can inject your extensibility into Viva. So the Viva dashboard allows you to create these cards and link out to your other applications, or link out to a Teams channel, or do other work, however you might need to do. This is your path to customizing the Viva experience. I've probably just upset a marketing person with saying it that way, but I stand by what I said. And let's scroll down here. And for our final one, this is a Teams chat. So we're going to come in here and we need a link to a channel. And so, hey, here's a channel where I've been talking to myself a bunch. So I'm just going to get a link to that channel. We'll copy that. We'll come back over here. We're going to paste that there. And what you're going to see, hopefully, hey, good, it's working. So you've seen this now go out, and it's read 9 new messages in the channel. And here's the channel we're linked to, so you can check my work and count these messages. But some neat things here. So this sample here is going to show you a little bit more complicated patterns. We've got multiple card views, we've got multiple quick views, and we've got some real interactivity now in a form talking back to that Teams channel. So a couple things I want to show is if I come in here and I start a new conversation and I say, hello from the demo, we'll send that into the Teams channel. And if we are lucky today, this is going to update momentarily here. I think it takes about 15 seconds, give or take. Hey, 10 new messages. That's fantastic that it works. Love it. So this is neat. It shows us how many new messages we have. So you can imagine this on your mobile device, checking in, not necessarily just to Teams, but imagine this pattern. You're checking into a help desk ticketing system, or your email, or there's lots of things in our world, right, that are notification based now. So this pattern kind of shows you an approach to that. Now I can click the quick view. I'm going to caution folks, I'm a very, very good designer, so visually this is probably the prettiest thing you're going to see, but it's shows all our messages from the channel. So you can see here, hello from the demo there, and you can see you've got down the little text there, it says from Patrick. So we're able to get this information from the Teams channel. And now I want to go in here, and this cool little sunglasses icon, it actually says here, hello from the demo. I can enter a reply, hi there, right? I'm going to click my button. So there's a little rendering snafu there, but you can see I've said hi there. And if we go back to our channel, hey, it's always neat when the code works. We've responded to our Teams channel and said hi there. So I can close this. I can see my other messages. I can look at other messages. And they're all pretty much me just talking to myself. So it's not the most exciting chat. But the point of this is we've shown a pattern where we can go pull something, get information from it. We've got a quick view that shows us a list of things, and then we've got another quick view that shows us the detail of those things. And we've added interactivity into that quick view so we can interact with that thing that we're seeing the details of, right? That is probably one of the most common web patterns, right? So this sort of highlights how to do all that. Well, how did we do all that? Well, it just so happens we've got the code right here. So again, we scaffolded our extension using the Yeoman generator exactly as before. We're going to go into our adaptive card extension, and there's a lot more code in this one. So we've got 5 different views, 3 card views and 2 quick views. And we've got in our on init, we've registered all of our different views just as before, again, using the card navigator and the quick view navigator. We've set our initial state. Note one thing we're tracking here is the card view to render. So this is saying our base or our default view is going to be this one, which happens to be called default view. Make it easy on myself. And some of this other stuff, we're just going to null it up, -1s, no big deal. And then we have this method set up views. We'll come to that in just a second. And this is now, we're there. So here's set up views. And we're checking some things now. So we've got this idea that we have these views and we need settings to actually go to the channel. So the first thing we do is in our properties, do we have a channel link, right? And if we don't, we set the state card view to render, setting the state so we remember it in state, the set channel registry ID. And then we're calling this method of the card navigator replace. So this is a very important thing I want to point out, that while this, where is my render card? While this is called and tells you what card to render, this is only called on the initial rendering of the card. So even if this is controlled by state, it will not reflow if the value here changes. It's not checked, right? So you are responsible for using the methods of the card navigator. In this case, we're showing replace, and we're going to show another technique here in a second. So replace says, whatever view you're showing, just get rid of it and this is the view I want you to show now. And remember, the views all share the same state. So there isn't a huge penalty here. You're setting the state as one thing and the view is another thing. So we're replacing our current view with another view that's just going to pull the current state and show itself to the world. In this case, it's our card that says, hey, we need some data. Go please set the channel there. And then I like regex is a great way to solve problems. So, by introducing other problems. And so what we do is we use this to parse the stuff we need out of our channel link. So if you've ever looked at the Teams channel link, you have all the information in there you need to understand how to communicate with that channel via graph. And so if our matches are null, or we don't have the number we expect, which is 3, we have another card we're going to show here, which is, hey, the channel link you gave us, we don't understand. That could be because you didn't give us a channel link that's correct, or perhaps channel links have changed, right? This could be a bug in our regex, which would be shocking to have a bug in regex. And then we're doing the same operation. We're replacing that card navigator view there. We're going to update the state again with our channel base URL that we've built from the values we captured there. We're going to set our card view to render. And again, we still have to do the replaces, right? So we're going to replace that. We've got our MS Graph client factory. So this is very much like SharePoint Framework built right in. So I'm getting it off of this .context, get client, got my client. And then I've got a module here. I'll show you briefly, but again, Graph isn't quite the topic of this demo, but we're passing in the client and the channel base URL. So a similar pattern to what you saw with the previous one, where we're sort of capturing those things so we can use this module in our views that do not have access to the context. And then we're getting a message reader here. And that reader actually is just it's going to pull the graph service, and anytime it has new messages, we're just going to add those to our state. This for production is not nearly correct, but for our sample, this shows the general idea of we need to get new messages, we need to add those to our state and update our state. So let's look then at some of our views. So I put all the card views in a folder. You can do this however you want to do it. It's really up to you, but I think this is nice because the card views are pretty compact single file things. And so this is really just saying, this is our default. So this is saying, you know, we've got this many new messages. So our state messages length, that's our messages array, icon properties and so forth. And we are returning from our card selection, the quick view. And the view we're going to show is the message list, right? We're going to look at that in a second. These other two are just saying, hey, we could not parse the channel link. And hey, you must set a channel link to connect the channel. You could have each of these be like a generic error view that you set, you know, values on. Lots of ways to do that. I did this just because it's simple and clean. The next thing I want to show is the message list view. So this is taking the messages we've got in our state. Remember, this state is going to be constantly updated by this reader. So we don't have to keep worrying about, are there new messages in other places, right? We're just going to get our messages from the state and return those messages. We're going to require a template, and on action, we set the state of what the selected method is. And then here's the other option in Quick View Navigator. Card View Navigator works the same way. Here we're doing quick views, but we're doing push. So we're pushing into a stack of views a new view, right? And you'll see in a second why we've done that. Real quick, looking at the template, this is a little bit more complicated template. Again, not going to go through this completely, but one thing to note here is, and where so in adaptive cards, you have this $ data to which you can bind collections, and then the rest of the things in this block are essentially going to be a repeater, right? So it's going to do a column and it's going to do a subject from each message, right? And the user from each message. So you've got your data, and then adaptive cards is going to essentially repeat that. And you've got your action here to view. And you can see in the data, you can add things into this data property, data value things. In my case, I'm using the index. We go back and look. I'm getting the index there. That tells me the selected message, and I pushed our view in there. And I'm running out of time on myself, which is fine. And then message view is very similar. It's getting our messages, it's showing them off, setting our state on our action. We're doing some logic here to keep our polling going correctly. And we're setting timeouts, again, to load up that message content, those message replies. I'm not going to dive too much into the messages module. Do encourage you to check it out as you have time outside of this demo, but you can see how we've done readers. We've used generator functions as interesting pattern there to process delta next links. And then we've got our on message function that is returning out the actual messages from our generator as we get them. And then we've got different functions here to get message details, get message replies, but they're all using that client that we sort of grabbed a ref to with that init messages when we were still in the ACE. So with that, I do want to take just a second to do a surprise demonstration of PnPjs v3. So Julie and I have had a lot of fun working on this. We're really excited to start showing it to you, and I'm just going to give you a very quick overview of this. We're not going to go into this deep, but I'm excited to start talking about this and to give you all a taste of what's coming. So you can see a little bit, ignore all these variable names and things. This is all just testing. But what we've got here is I've created a new SP here. You're giving it a URL directly. We've got a new model that's very much more event middleware based. Using SP default, we give it some MSAL stuff. We're using a debug logger, so we're able to add lots of things in there. And then I'm just going to hit F5 real quick, mostly to prove to myself that F5 still works. But this is going to run, and you're going to see the syntax for you, the user, hasn't changed. The only change we anticipate is really in your setup of where you establish these things. And then you'll see in here, as this gets going, that doesn't help that my poor little Surface is struggling to keep going with all these things. And so you're going to see this run. Again, super visual demo for me as always. But one thing I want to point out here is we're emitting all these different things. So there's auth and send and parse and post, and there's a pre. And what's really interesting here, and what we tried to do, is we've gotten a lot of feedback that I just want to write a parser, or I just want to write auth or something like that. In the past, it's been very, very hard. So, you know, and not intuitive on how to do that. So what we've done is created a model where you could plug into all of these sort of events as the requests are built and process those as we go. And you can see we actually did get data back, because that's always very exciting to see. So that's a super quick preview on PnPjs v3. If you want to know more, we're going to do a longer session on that when we get a chance. But I wanted to thank everybody for listening to me talk for a long time about ACEs, about Viva Connections development. I'm very excited about it. I think there's a lot of cool opportunity there, a lot of new stuff to do. I'm really excited to see what folks in the community build using this new model. So check out my samples. Let me know what you think. Submit your own samples. Very much encourage you to do that. Julie's got some great samples out there. And I do want to thank Julie Turner for all her great work on PnPjs v3. She's made a huge impact there, and it's been invaluable to have her help. So thank you to Julie for all her work there. And thank you to all of you for joining us today on the call. The recording of the call will be available about 24 hours on our YouTube channel. Follow us on Twitter, Microsoft 365 Dev and M365 PnP. Next SPFx call is going to be September 9th. That can't possibly be right. Can't almost be September. Next general dev call next Thursday, September 2nd at the same time. All community calls, ak.ms/m365pnp as well. Got lots of developer calls coming up. The platform call that I bungled discussing 31st of August coming up. And then a lot of the other calls will reset as well in September. Thank you all very much. Have a great rest of your day and look forward to talking soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thanks, Patrick. Awesome work. Absolutely brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll point out, doing it all myself, came in on time.